dear sisters, the Lord, in His providence and power, has brought us at a quiet moment to a quiet church. We are at a place where that same power manifested itself for the first time, Cana of Galilee. And it is a God of humility, which we find also expressed in the Gospel. For on humility the Gospel dwells, and he talks of the Pharisee and the publican. God gives the example by not being what in Italian is called eclatante, a God of outbursts normally. His powerful work is done in silence. The miracle of which that first one here in Cana is a prefigurement, is quiet. The great works of God are often, and indeed usually, quiet. They start often in a gentle nudging, which we pick up in prayer. But for that to happen, we need also to be in silent mode. We can't get through otherwise. When he can, and finds an open channel, then he is almighty. And one of his greatest problems is getting to that situation where he finds no obstacle, but he may do what and only what he projects and programs. This place is also linked with Nathaniel, Bartholomew, Bar's son, so that would presumably be some kind of surname, because we have two forms of his name in the Gospel. And Nathan is the gift of Aaron, gift of God. He had a terrible martyrdom. He was flamed, skinned alive, and then put in some boiling oil. Certainly not the most comfortable way to be dispatched. Now, he was just outside, presumably here, under his fig tree. And Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, in her visions of the Gospel, saw that the Lord was saying something to him that only he picked up and understood. I saw you under the fig tree. Now, what apparently was going on there, according to the vision of this great mystic, was that he was watching a dance of local girls and was having bad thoughts. And it's rather similar to what happened in the case of our local saint in Italy, St. Catherine of Siena, who went up to none less than the Pope in Avignon, Pope Gregory, and said something that only he and the Lord knew, but presumably some past sin. And of course he sat up and took her seriously. Therefore too, he and Nathaniel sat up and took seriously, and changed tone very quickly, from having said, "Come any good thing come from that place, Nazareth, up the road. You are the Son of God," and so on. And it is in that greater optic and higher key that the Lord goes on to say, "You will see greater things than these. The Son of Man ascending and descending, or rather the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man," linking his own person with that of Jacob. Now, this has been commented on also by great writers, including the one that St. Cattins I did my thesis on in Rome. He sees these two movements as summing up our life, especially in the combined life of someone who is called upon to be going up and bringing down what he receives by going up. And that precisely is what the work of the Lord is about. We call it technically the active and contemplative life, and in the case of one doing that, the mixed life, what St. Thomas Aquinas refers to as being better than just being a light, but actually giving light also to others. That is not just burning for oneself, already a great thing, but also able to give to others. But what this great writer, Adam Scott, insists upon is this: as long as he is giving what he has received. In other words, that he's been there. And this is unfortunately what is often lacking in much of our pastoral programming. One observes much programming of the Lord, but little of the Lord, and therefore much meager fruit. Whereas sometimes one sees a soul apparently doing little and in silent mode, but much more open to what the Lord himself wants to do, and able with one word to hit hard there where it can have effect. But it's true also in every aspect of life. Words are like leaves, and where they most abound, much depth of sense beneath is seldom to be found. And in the old saying, an empty vessel makes most noise. In other words, a word correctly aimed, carefully chiseled and formed before leaving the mouth, is like a torpedo. But when it's covered with much emptiness of resonance, it is not perceived, because we can't hear it. There's too much before and after for it to be perceived. A person who speaks not much, but says at the right time the right thing, and only that, commands attention. And one priest in Italy was a puzzling case, Lorenzo Milani. He was a holy man in his own way. But because it was before his days, he was sent up to a quiet parish away from the centre of reality. But they did much good with the young people. But he had little sayings which are worth remembering. And one is this, which you might remember. There is one way always to be listened to. And that is to make sure that every affirmation one makes is correct. Because over a period of time, what happens is this: people somehow have the instinct, whatever that person says, it tends to be right. And therefore, it's a dignified, one can almost say, divine way of operating. Little, but well. Now look at what's going on in the Gospel. We have in the Pharisee much of the wrong case, much wordiness, and it says actually this translation, prayed to himself. And the list goes on. And then we have the other gentleman who recognizes that he was a sinner, and that, by the way, is the problem. God will forgive anyone who recognizes and asks for forgiveness. Those who spend their time justifying themselves are in trouble spiritually. A person who recognizes that he's been in the wrong, tendentially has been less in the wrong. And a person who really has been in the wrong, but knows it. It can be our case too, illness of spiritual illusion. The attitude the Lord recommends is that of, just opposite the Eastern Church here, what they have day to day is Jesus' prayer. Be merciful to me, a sinner. The only mode we can have in coming to our God, I am not great shakes, and therefore my correct attitude is not one of wordiness. A simple, humble prayer which says it all and is meant. That too is also a spiritual illness. Coming to prayer and being God. We are in charge of our prayer. Whereas the true prayer of the heart is abdicating and letting God reign. So that reign here started visibly at this spot and is to be extended now 20 centuries later at this altar. That the same God of light does invisibly what he did visibly there in transforming matter. In this case, liquid, but also the host itself. Rarely is there visibly a change, although that too has happened. Therefore, faith in the action and power of our invisible God, who asks us when we come to him to be as quiet, as humble, and as gently as he.
Marcel.